Hello everyone, I'm Lee. Welcome back to Coombe Valley Campers. Today we're going to show you how to put this split charge kit into this VW camper van. As you may have seen in our previous video, which you can find right here, we discussed a split charge system and how it works. Now, it's just the normal voltage sensitive split charge relay because it's an earlier type van. If you have a more modern van which has what's called a smart alternator, you are going to need a smart split charge, which is supplied by Rain Automotive. Rain Automotive are the people we bought this kit from today. If you want to buy any of their products, please have a look at the link below, and yeah, they'll give you all the kit you need for your conversion. So the split charge kit you see here is from Rain Automotive, and what you get in the kit is basically three parts. First is the main wiring loom. It has the voltage sensitive relay, a live terminal that will go onto your leisure battery, a live terminal that will fit onto your vehicle battery, an inline fuse, and cabling that is basically made to the length you require. If you have a vehicle such as this, a VW T5, and you want to locate the battery under the driver's seat, you just have a chat with the guys at Rain Automotive and they will make you a loom that fits that. If you have the same sort of vehicle, but you want the batteries located at the rear of the vehicle, again, they will custom make you a split charge loom to whatever requirements you have. The next item we have is your earth lead. Now this will go to the negative terminal on your leisure battery and a good earthing point on your vehicle also. The last piece is this fuse box. Now this uses normal vehicle blade fuses, just in this part here. It has one terminal on the other end that will go to the positive terminal on your leisure battery, and then the fuse panel will be located to wherever you require it on the vehicle. The last part is just a little bag of screws, and that is designed to help you mount the split charge relay and the fuse panel. The last part of the kit is a couple of sheets of paper, which is basically explaining to you what a voltage sensitive relay is, and also a very simple wiring diagram and how to fit it. But we're going to be going through that with you today. Before we make a start today, I just wanted to show you my new hat. It's the first item in the new range of our Coombe Valley Campers merchandise. We're going to be releasing hats, we're going to be releasing t-shirts and hoodies and things like that. But check it out, I'm not going to be wearing the previous hat that we did for all those other videos. This is going to be the new standard baseball cap. It comes in three colour combinations: grey with a burgundy logo, black with a burgundy logo, or black with a grey logo. If you have a look in the description below, look at our Instagram, Facebook and website links, and you can drop me a message and order yours today. The tools you are going to need today are as follows. You are going to need a comprehensive socket set with 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch sockets or wrenches. You're going to need a multitude of spanners. I'm not going to give you the exact ones because you may not be fitting this kit to a VW T5, for example, so we're just going to give you a range of tools. What we have here is a trim removal kit. Now these you can find in our web link below on our products page, and it comes with everything you will need to remove any sort of trim from under the bonnet or in the dash, which will help you in the long term routing all your wires. And it will safely remove those bits of trim, because in the more modern vans everything's plastic. If you pull a piece of trim off the wrong way, you're just going to snap clips and things like that. So using a trim removal kit like this is vital. We are going to need to make a couple of holes, or we're going to have to drill into the van itself. So a good power screwdriver or power drill is very handy to have, side cutters and a blade. This socket set here, VWs and other brands of cars actually use these star sockets, multitude of different sockets. You might find that the fixtures and fittings in a Transit Custom, for example, will be different to, say, an Allen headed socket or just a normal hex bolt, something like that. So having the right socket set for your vehicle is also vital. This is the sort of job that can be done at home. It's preferable to have a nice dry space like this, but if you're working outside, just make sure you're doing it on a day that's obviously not torrential weather. What we're going to be doing first is popping the bonnet and disconnecting the battery. Now on a VW T5, the battery is located here, but if you've got another type of van, you might find your battery is under the cab floor. That's where they are. I believe it's the Vauxhall Vivaro and the Renault variant vans, the battery's actually in the cab floor. So first thing we're going to do is disconnect that battery. What I'm going to say now is quite important. If you are in any way unsure of what you're doing when it comes to vehicle electrics or 12-volt electrics, please seek the advice of an expert, or don't touch it at all and find your nearest camper van converter or mechanic to either offer advice and or carry out the job for you. What we're going to be showing you today is how to fit this kit in particular. It's regarded as a more simple job because there's only 4 connections that we need to make, but if you are unsure at all, please seek the advice of an expert. Let's get on with it. Let's disconnect the battery. Under a T5, under the T5 bonnet, your battery is under here. Now, this is a good T5 because this cover's still present. In most of them, you find that this cover has been winged long before you've ever touched laid your hands on it. So, first things first, we're just going to grab a tool out of our toolkit. Thank you, Gary. It's basically one of our trim tools. It's got a big flat blade on the end, and we should be able to just turn them half a turn. Nice and easily removed. And we're going to be disconnecting the live side of the battery because we're going to be adding a terminal onto that later, and it's just going to be a 10mm spanner or a 10mm socket. Now, common misconception is that a 12-volt DC system is safer than a 240-volt AC system that you would say find in your house. Now, that's not necessarily the case. You still need to exercise precaution, especially when it comes to working on any part of the electrical system or the engine, because you can make a mistake. I mean, I've made mistakes before, and good practice is to disconnect the battery. Even when you are disconnecting this terminal here, you have to be very careful that you don't touch any surrounding metal with your spanner, so you do not arc between the positive terminal and the vehicle body itself. What I'm going to talk to you about now is routing the cable for the split charge loom through the vehicle bulkhead. Now, we've done many vans. This VW T5, T6 in particular, I prefer to route the cable via an access panel here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what you're effectively trying to do is safely route this new cabling through the engine bulkhead into the cab. First thing we're going to do is remove this access panel here. Now, this access panel is actually for getting to the tops of the front suspension towers. It's very simple to do. First things first is remove that piece of trim. We don't need that at the moment. You can remove it all the way. We don't necessarily need to. And there are 2 bolts, one here in the corner, which I'm going to use my star-shaped Allen key here for, and then there's one just under here as well, and I'll show you a little hint or tip to get to that one. The next screw you've got to access is underneath this plastic scuttle. Now, you can remove the whole thing entirely. It's not really necessary. All we need to do is pry it up and then just put something in the way. I've just used this, what have I got here? A 12mm high impact socket. Just put it there, and now you can see just in here that bolt machine screw that we need to undo. And I'm going to use my tool here. It's going to feed through this grill and undo the screw just there. A little handy tip. Once both of those screws are removed, just need to give it a bit of a wiggle, and that whole panel comes out. As you can see, full of rubbish down there. I'll just go and get the shop vac and I'll get all this cleaned out. Now this panel is removed and we've hoovered up all of the crap that's underneath there, we can actually see the route that we're going to take with the leisure wiring. We're going to connect the loom to the positive terminal. The route of the cable is going to follow this existing cable here. We're going to wrap it round the back of the battery, and then it's going to come up through this existing grommet that goes through the first part of this bulkhead. Now, what I've done in the past is just made a very, very small incision there. I've passed the cable through to where I needed it to go, and then we've just used black electrical tape, much like the factory did. As you can see here, they've got black electrical tape around there, or we use the electrical cloth tape, which is just as good. There is no water that gets down there or underneath this panel, so we're quite happy that that's a decent place to pass the cable through. The second part to actually get through into the vehicle is via this wiring grommet you see right at the back. We're going to be removing that wiring grommet entirely. We're going to cut a hole within it or replace it with its own separate wiring grommet. And then the lead will safely pass through there without any fear of cutting this outer sheath on the bodywork, and then we can pass it through into under the dash and then to where you desire it inside the van.
Sorry about that. What happened here was our amazing cameraman Ali, he'd just been shooting some wonderful slow-mo shots and didn't change the settings. So what we've got here is a really slow video of me talking to you all about wiring grommets and how important they are when you are running cabling through, say, the metal bulkhead of your engine bay, and you can buy them in multi-packs or you can buy them individually. What I go ahead and say is that we have removed the existing blanking grommet from the hole in the bulkhead that I've shown you, and we've used a wiring grommet to make a big wiring grommet, so to speak. So we've cut the centre out of the blanking grommet, and then we've inserted a wiring grommet in the centre of that original blanking grommet. So what we could do is potentially watch 8 minutes of this clip, but we're not going to. We're now going to go on to a lovely montage of me cutting out the centre of the wiring grommet and fitting it back in the van. So yeah, we'll try not to do that again. Thank you.
Now we've done that first grommet, we're going to be modifying this one here. Luckily it moves out of the bulkhead a little bit so we can make access, or get access, a little bit easier. And all I'm going to be doing is using this single-edged razor blade here, and I'm going to be making a very small incision because the rubber's flexible. It'll be able to expand as we push the cable through. So our aim is to make the smallest incision possible, push the cable through, and then we'll tape up that gap as best as possible to not allow any dirt or detritus in there as well. So we'll get on that now. We've prepared the outside of the van for the cable to come through. Now I'm going to show you in this T5 where we're going to be feeding the cable through, and then where we're going to run the cable where we want it to go to our leisure battery. First, we're going under. Underneath the T5 dash, normally you'd find a little cover plate here. This one's actually missing it, I didn't know that, so I've only just come down here now and seen that it's missing it. But there's basically a couple of screws that hold it in, and or clips if you've got a later T6. I believe this panel, if I remember rightly, is just clipped in. But what we're going to do first is just peel away this mat here. If we tuck that away just like that, you'll be able to see a bit more under the dash now. You'll notice there's an earthing point there already. That's a handy point to note. But we are going to be feeding our cable through up here. So if I ask Ali to come where I'm sitting now, I'm going to be shining a light through the hole that we've just made in that grommet, and you'll be able to see where we're going to be feeding that cable through. To make access a little easier, I'm just going to remove this panel here. So you just get your trim tool in the side there, and it just pops off. On later vans, this area here is where you've got your airbag switch to turn it on and off. Just be careful that if you unplug the airbag switch from this panel, that you may trip your airbag light on the dashboard. So just points to note there. You can remove this panel and get some better access in through there. We've now done the wiring grommet through the bodywork, and we've modified the wiring grommet through into the engine bay. Now we're going to be feeding the cable. Now when you receive the wiring loom, this terminal is attached to that fuse holder there. I've removed that because I don't really want to be trying to feed this whole fuse holder through that tiny little hole. So I'm going to be going from the cab, where you've just seen me, through that first grommet, through the second grommet, then into the battery compartment, and then we can look at where we're going to route it and cable tie it right at the end. So yep, that's the first thing to do. Now we've done the wiring in the engine bay, and we've shown you the route to take. We've now got to concentrate on routing the wiring back here. I wanted to show you two ways today. One was routing that wiring without removing any of the hardware. The second was another route and removing the seats and hardware. We can't go that far today. I can only show you one because we can't open this locker. There's a locker underneath this seat, and we can't get any of the keys to work. So this seat's going to have to stay in. We can, however, remove the driver's seat from the seat base, so I can show you where we can route the wiring there. As a bit of a background, we haven't converted any of this van yet. The only thing we've started to do is cut the hole in the roof for the rooftop. That's the way it's getting painted. It will get fitted at the end of next week. So yeah, we're going to get on and show you that now. Routing the wiring to the back of this vehicle. First way I'm going to show you is what I'm going to call the quick and dirty way. It's not advised, but it's a way you can do it. And as you can see, I've already pulled the mat out. And what you can continue to do is to just pull your mat and lift your mat here. And basically, just tuck your wiring in as it's under the mat. So now we've just been lifting the mat, tucking the wiring in so it's concealed. Now, I say that's the quick and dirty way. It's not the way we would do it here. We would route the cable in a very similar manner, but we would either use self-adhesive clips, and I'll show you them in a minute, to actually keep the cable in one place, or we would use the likes of P-clips to keep the cable in place, or in other places we'd use an aluminium tape just to keep the cable from moving. And what you're doing that for is to prevent the cable from chafing on a metal surface, much like the bulkhead where you put a rubber grommet to stop the cable chafing on the metal edge. The same goes on the floor over the van's lifetime. The wearing of the sheathing on the cable could potentially wear through on a sharp edge or on a metal surface and make the live short out to earth of the body. Your aim is, when you're laying this wiring and routing this wiring on your van, is to have it the most secure and safe way from the battery to the leisure battery. Again, just showing you the quick and dirty way. You can just tuck it under there if you want to. Again, not advised. Unfortunately at this point I can't move this passenger seat, as I've explained, because I can't unbolt the bugger. But we're going to find a way around it and install that cable for you. Before we fasten any of our cable down, we want to establish a good route, and that's what we've been doing in the front and now in the side. Now, as we told you, the seat has, well, we're not able to pull the seat out because we can't undo that locker, so we're finding a good alternative route. And you might come across this when you're building your van, something that you can't move, or you've got to find an alternate route. So luckily on this van, for example, we've got lots of excess, and we are going to route this cable under the mat, but we're going to secure it, and we're going to go around this seat base under the rubber here, in between this bulkhead mount and the actual seat base itself, and then we'll be bringing it along. But what I've noticed is now I've removed this trim and the cab step, we have this cable route tray just down here. Now, I don't want to disturb any of the factory cables in there, so I'm going to route our new cabling underneath that wiring, so it's not going to lay on top of it, put it under any tension or rub on it. So I've disconnected this end from the split charge relay itself, so now there's no other obstructions apart from that little eyelet. I'm going to route the cable exactly where I want it, then I will start fastening it down from that battery end, and so we'll end up, if I do have any excess cable, it won't be coiled up, for example, in the engine bay. I'll have the excess cable within the living area where you can safely conceal it and yeah, fasten it to either a unit or the side of the van. So be prepared for another little montage of me routing this cable now and fastening it down with these little sticky bases. I'm going to be putting these along the route, and I'll be feeding a little cable tie through them. Just as a quick tip, before you stick them down on your metalwork, just clean the surface with a solvent based liquid such as white spirits, brake clean or panel wipe. So wipe the surface, peel that sticker off, stick it down, and then you'll be able to hold the cable down with a cable tie. So, see you in a minute. Right, so I am just peeling up the rubber mat in the best way I can, bearing in mind the space I've got, and I'm kind of feeding the cable underneath it as I go. As we explained previously, we could have just stuffed our cable down next to this step. This is actually a really convenient point for the cable to run. There's a nice void in the rubber, in between the rubber floor mat and the plastic side step. It's perfect. We're actually going to be using that route, but we're going to be adding these sticky tabs, as we explained before, with some cable ties. And then we're going to route that cable up, through up into under the dash, and then that will lead through. We've fed the cable behind that seat, as you've just seen, and the only way we can do that is by lifting the mat, tucking it under and popping it back down again. I'm very happy in the fact that that cable won't move again, so confident that we won't get any rubbing or chafing through there. Once we've got all this tied up, I'll put the step back in, put the mat down, put this plastic trim back in place, and then we'll concentrate on feeding the cable through to the back of the van. Now we've got the back half of the install all in and tidy. I'm going to start just buttoning up the battery connection. First thing I've done there is just to remove the fuse and drop it. Can't pick it up with my gloves on. Right, there you go. So that's the 100 amp fuse, just leave it up there. I'm now going to attach it to the live terminal, and that is just, there's a couple of ways you can do this. you can either put a M6 bolt into the top of that terminal there, which I'm going to do, or you can bolt it to the under the nut where the terminal is. So I'm just going to go and get myself a M6 bolt and washer, and screw that terminal down onto, that eyelet down onto the positive terminal. Really chuffed with how this has gone so far. We've wired in the battery, or we've made the connection to the battery, we've routed the cable through the bulkhead, round underneath the cab mat, and we're now at the driver's seat. Now, a lot of vehicles have the facility and the space to locate a leisure battery under either the driver's or passenger's seats. Ford Transit Customs, for example, they actually have space for the main vehicle battery and the leisure battery under the seat base. T5s like this and T6s have space for what's called a low height battery under this seat frame, and within the likes of a Renault Master or Vauxhall Vivaro, they don't really have the space up front or in the engine bay for the battery. The batteries are normally located within the interior. As a nice segue to that, from that, the leisure battery in this particular van, leisure batteries in this particular van are going to be located here. For the purpose of this video, I am going to be wiring the split charge relay and the earth cable for the leisure battery to a point as if you were going to locate this battery under the seat. So the earth cable we are going to mount to this seat base bolt or stud under here, and we are going to position this battery just here as if it was going to be located. We're then going to double check all our connections, pop the fuse in near the battery, turn the vehicle on, and then test that the system works. So when it comes to wiring the battery, we know where our live terminal is going or coming from. It's coming from the split charge relay, but how do we know where to mount the other end of the earth lead? Now, we've already said that we're going to be mounting it to a stud under the seat, and to enable us to determine where is a good earth point, we need to test the continuity between this point and another known earth point. Now, if you had leads long enough on a tester, you could test from an earth point to the vehicle battery earth terminal, and you test the continuity between those 2 points. Generally, in most vehicles, the metalwork and the chassis of the vehicle is regarded as an earth or a ground. So if you can test between a known good earth point on a battery, for example, or on the chassis, to another point on the vehicle body or the chassis, and you get continuity between those 2 points, that is known as a good earth point. If you didn't understand that, watch it again, I think. On the test meter we have here, and electrical testers such as this can be bought as cheaply as £10 from the likes of Screwfix, or on Amazon for probably even less. And we're going to set the tester up now and test the continuity between this stud under the seat and this seatbelt bolt, because we know they both screw into the chassis. This piece of equipment here is known as an electrical tester or voltmeter or circuit tester, and right now we're interested in testing continuity. And to test continuity, we need to test the resistance between 2 points. Resistance is measured in ohms. If we get a resistance of 0 between 2 points, that means that we have good continuity. On this particular meter, we've already switched this lever to ohms, which is resistance, And at the moment the screen reads OL, which is overload, which means open circuit. If I was to touch these two test leads together, just making sure that they're pushed into the meter nice and firm, if we touch these two together, the ohm reading then goes to 0.0 and we have an audible beep, which means that we have continuity between 2 points. Now, if we go over to the seat stud and the seat belt mounting point, which we both know are screwed into the chassis, and we either get an audible beep and or the screen reads 0.0, then we know we've got continuity between those 2 points. Just to clarify, this is not how I would normally install a battery. This is just a normal vehicle battery for the purpose of this test. The customer of this vehicle is supplying his own batteries, and he doesn't know exactly where he wants his batteries located. He's waiting till his furniture is fitted before he does that. To that end, we are going to test that the system works with a vehicle battery at this location here, and that's what it's going to be today. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to test the voltage of this battery. So I've switched the meter over to volts DC, put one terminal onto live, one onto negative, and we currently have 12.25 volts DC. I'm going to mount this lead onto the earth terminal, screw it down, cover on for safety. We know this voltage sensitive relay is plumbed in correctly, as it's even labelled on the back. This fuse is currently in and tight, but we are missing the fuse under the engine bay, so the system will not go live. So I'm going to connect this battery lead onto this live terminal here. I'm only doing finger tight at the moment because we'll be pulling the battery off anyway. And there we have it. That is really all that is needed this end for wiring in the leisure battery. Voltage sensitive relay, earth point on the chassis, earth terminal connected, live terminal connected. What we'll do now is pop the fuse back into the lead coming from the battery. That will mean this cable coming in from the vehicle battery goes live, but this relay won't click over until this relay reads 13.7 volts once the engine is turned on and the alternator is working. Let's go and do that. Battery's connected, terminal's connected here, fuse is in. Now I'm going to connect it back to the terminal. Nice little crack and a spark there. If we go into the back of the van now, we'll test the battery once again. We should be reading 12.25 volts DC. We'll then start the engine, watch out for the audible click on the relay, then we'll remeasure the voltage, and that should go up to 14-15 volts. So one test, 12.25 volts DC. I'm going to start the engine, listen for the click, and then test the voltage again. That was the click, relay turned on. You can actually see a visible red light in the relay as well. Test the voltage here. We're reading 13.92 volts DC. And it's staying stable at about 13.95, 13.96, but you might find that that will creep up the longer you keep the engine running. And there you have it. We have successfully wired in our voltage sensitive relay. That has been a fairly simple install. We were hindered by the seat not being able to come out, but we're able to route the cable nicely and safely and securely round to behind the driver's seat. Worked really well. We turned the vehicle on, the relay gave the audible click, and then we got our 14 volts at the battery, which is exactly what we aim to do. If you have any questions regarding the video, please leave a comment down below. Do remember that that is the preferred way we wire in a split charge relay into a T5. You might find your own way. This video is aimed just as a bit of a help to you to install your relay kit. If you like that kit, we love them. You can click down in the description below, and that will lead you to the products page, which means you can buy those loom kits from Rain Automotive. But click on the link, take you to the products page, and in there you can find all the tools that you've seen today. You want to buy those, you can go and buy them there, and any of the other videos that we will have around about here in just a second, you can buy the tools and the products from those videos as well. Make sure you do that and buy the products via our website. Talking of things you can buy, just remind you again, this is the new hat we've now got. I hope you've enjoyed seeing it on the video. It's a lovely piece of kit. We have already had orders placed. It's really good for us as a channel, and it just shows how much our viewers, subscribers, fans, if you want to call it that, actually like to support us by buying the merchandise as well. This hat will be the first of many things we have on offer. So again, you click down below in the description. We've got our Instagram, our Facebook and our website where you can buy the hat in a choice of 3 colours. Thanks again. It's been a really good video, this one. Again, please click on any of these videos where you can see how we carpet vans, how we run electrics in vans, and fit insulation and sound deadening as well. But finally, if you liked it, please like, subscribe. There's more videos where this one came from. Bye bye.